Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bar Talk Podcast. I am Jordan Shabbat of the Speedwell Tavern, joined always by my co-hosts, my assistant, Karl.
Hello, everybody.
And Dan Mahoney of the British Beer Company.
What up, dogs?
What up, guys? And we are at Tavern on the Wharf, located on Sixtown Wharf in Plymouth, Massachusetts, recording in their beautiful back room. This is a giant restaurant, awesome menu, great service. And we've been doing a lot of Q&A episodes lately, which has been great. Thank you guys for all the feedback on those. But there's been a lot of trends, and we've sort of kind of come through on a lot of the questions you guys were giving us. And it's things we've noticed that I guess how a bar sort of survives is how they adapt, or a restaurant, how they adapt and how they survive and how they kind of predict when these trends are coming up. How about you guys? What have you really seen over the last year or so that has changed? I mean, Bar Talk, we've been doing this for a year. There's been a lot of changes.
I think there's been a lot of trends. I don't know what's going to stay and what's going to fall by the wayside. But, there's a lot of, if you talk about drinking trends, it's the spiked seltzers out there. It's local breweries that keep on popping up, or pop-up breweries, pop-up beer gardens. It's the what they coin as a craft vodka or tequila that's, really, really sought after. Yeah, it's like a small batch, but it's really, really sought after, and everybody's asking for it. There's food trends out there. There's just a lot of trends out there that I wish I knew 2 years ago what they were. So at some point in this episode, we're going to try to predict what they're going to be.
I already know the recipe. Come up with something and just do very little of it and tell people it's really awesome, and then make it really hard to get, and then all of a sudden it's like the best thing in the world.
That's true.
I think the real trick is just don't have it. Just say it exists.
Yes. Right. I mean, that's the thing. Don't get me wrong. Like, a lot of these things, I'd say all these things are really high quality, but they're also, it's kind of subjective at the same time too. Like, because you can't get it all the time, when you have it, you imagine it to be better than what it is.
There's a lot of billboard stuff out there, too, so you can tell what's going to be the next trend. You drive down 93, right north, right into Boston, you see a big sign for this.
Right.
And then the next 2 weeks, you're going to have 1 million people ask for that.
Right.
Until that billboard changed.
Taco-flavored tequila.
Dude, how'd you know what I had for breakfast?
One of the things, all of our bars, I would say, are sort of beer-centric. We focus on the craft beer industry, I think, more than we do in any other, not counting food, especially Dan.
I don't count food.
You don't count food. Dorito, you gotta have those.
I don't count it.
You don't count it. But so beer we're located in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The big trend out here is New England IPA. They're dubbing it now, which is basically an unfiltered IPA, and it's basically the more opaque. The less you can see through it, the more sought after, the higher praise it gets. And if you don't have the stuff, then you're not a reputable IPA bar, and we're all shuffling around to try to get the latest ones, whether we drink it or not.
Yep. If it doesn't look like my breakfast orange juice, I don't want it. Hoppy orange juice, that's what they all look like now.
Yeah. And they're even adding milk sugar or lactose to the beers to create that. And dude, don't get me wrong, I drink them. They're delicious. But it's a trend, and it's becoming like this feverish thing where the classic IPA from the West Coast or the classic IPA from Boston.
Well, let's go back. I mean, 5 years ago, it was how hoppy can you get your IPA? How many IBUs can you put in it?
IBUs. What's an IBU, Karl?
An IBU is the International Bitterness Units, which
science
measures how much hops are actually in your beer. Which I think 10 years ago was a good way of measuring it, but today it has no use in the bar today, because back then there was like 3 different styles of hops. Now there's 1 million. It's like marijuana. You can smoke marijuana that tastes like grape jelly, for Christ's sakes. So
yeah, you can.
It used to be how bitter the beer was, and the higher the IBU, the more bitter the beer is. Now it's just how much hops were added to the beer, and a lot of these hops now are not bittering hops. They're more flavor or citrus or anything. So it's really some standard that they used to have that really doesn't mean much anymore. And a few years ago, it used to be, how hoppy can I make the beer? How intense can that double, triple, quadruple IPA be? Then after that, they went to session IPAs, which is really low on the ABV scale, and it was
Full flavored, though.
because full flavored, but you would have these double, triple IPAs at 10, 11, 12% that you could have 2 beers and, you're hammered by the time
Ice skate home.
you go to the bathroom first. So
In July.
Sweaty eyelids.
so then they came out with the session IPAs, which was lower in the alcohol, but still had all the flavor that people could drink a ton of because it's lower in alcohol. So then they went to that trend. Now it's the hazy New England style IPAs, especially around here because
Right.
we're in New England.
Sure are.
So what is next on the beer trends? From what I've seen, it really isn't any particular style. It's super local, and I hate that word Uber because
You said super than Uber.
that's why I use super.
Okay.
It's because everybody wants the most local beer they can get, and here in Plymouth, used to be just one brewery for the longest time.
Then two.
Now there's a handful of breweries, and people want the super local breweries. When they go out, they're going to say, "What's the local beer on tap? What do you have for local beer? What if you have for local beer?" So I think that the trend right now is the super local beer, and it used to be, what's in a 3, 4, 5 state area.
Yep.
Then it went down to what's in your state.
What do you
Now-
get from the West Coast?
And now it's
Yeah,
what's
West
in your
Coast
town.
would be huge.
What's the hardest to get is the shit you had to ship across the country. Like, it was, what can I get here? What's from the furthest away? Not
Yep.
necessarily imported, but what can I get from California? What can I get from Oregon? What can I get from Washington State? That whole Yakima region, Pacific Northwest. Now,
Because it was a limited amount that came out, so people want what's the hardest to get just to
Yep.
say that they've had it.
and I think it started with food, where people will like eat local, farmers markets, do this, and all of a sudden the beer shifted that way. My taste went towards freshness. And I don't know what it was, but at some point, and maybe it's the style of beer, I am an IPA guy, and it's the style of beer I drink, I can tell an IPA that's been sitting in the sun or sitting on a truck, a 2-month IPA to a 2-week-old IPA. I can tell. And I know if I order, I'm drinking a Mayflower IPA right now, I know if I order this, it came from 10 minutes away, the shelf life on it, unless this, and I know Have It on the Wharf's not doing this because they're flying through shit, but if you're sitting, I know this place isn't sitting on a keg of Mayflower IPA. It's going to be fresh.
Well, I think a huge thing that kind of turned that, like you said, the farm to fresh stuff. But I think it's also now we have all options. So it used to be there were 2 local breweries, and that's just in our whole state. And then there's like, what can I get from northern New England, like Vermont, Maine, all that. And now Massachusetts has some of the best breweries in this area, if not this whole coast.
The whole country.
So now I think that's what kind of drove, I think, more local stuff because we have so many good local beer options too. But it also is the freshness things. Like, there's a couple places I know the guy who kegged the beer for me, who made the beer, who's testing the beer, all that. And that translates to our customers because they also know these people.
Which is all good and well, but you have to make a good beer.
Absolutely.
I think that, and that's why I think the subjective thing comes in.
Correct.
I said earlier is it's the whole experience of consuming that product. You have a trust with the person that made it. Even if it may not be your favorite style or the best beer you've ever had in your life, there's that perception going into it that I know the hands that made this beer. Already, you think it's going to. It's like seeing your food before. All beer looks the same, but it's like seeing your food. If the food is delicious, but it's just slopped on the plate, you're going into it thinking this is going to taste like a big mess. But if the food's, who made that food, they're a decent person, they plated it correctly, you already ate it with your eyes first, you knew the person. Same thing with beer. It's just like you guys say, if
Right.
you know who's making it.
And I think the trend recently not only is drink local, but go to your local brewery. And, I'll use the term pop-up brewery, but I think there's, 35 breweries within southeastern Massachusetts right now.
Yeah.
That you can probably 10 miles from Plymouth, you could probably go to 10 different breweries.
You have a hell of a brewery,
And it's,
Karl.
and it's a lot
Gotta
of them
get a
now.
driver.
A lot of
Right.
it now. The trends are they don't serve food; they just bring a food truck.
Yep.
So they only brew their beer, and then they serve their beer, and you bring your kids and you bring your dog, and everybody's welcome, and it's
A carnival.
yeah. My father never brought me to a bar. So my mother is like, I can't understand this. Why would you bring your kids?
I think
to
I
a bar?
brought my kid to New World. He's 7
But
months
there's a
old,
bar and a
5
brewery.
times.
That's a different thing. So
I've been to
I
7
think the
breweries.
trend now is to these people that have been drinking really good beer for the last 2 or 3 years are all now starting having kids and starting families, and they're bringing all that, and that's an acceptable thing. Now me, I'm older generation.
You are?
I am a few years older than everybody else.
All right.
here.
You know,
But
almost 40.
it's not my thing. When I go out to have a couple of drinks, I like to be with adults. I don't want to see a bunch of 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids running around and dogs running around and barking. I don't mind going, and I do go to a lot of them, but it's really not what I'm used to. But it seems to be the latest trend, and it seems to be because of the, and I hate to use this term, millenniums or whatever you want to call them these days. The Xbox kids, what is it called?
I like Xbox kids, and
Generation
we'll go with
Xbox.
that. We'll start your own.
I think it's because G-rated Carl's not fun, and when he sees a bunch of kids, he's like, "Fuck, I'm gonna
I
really
can't say
rein
that.
it in,
I can't say that
rein
now
it
when you
in.
see a bunch of kids.
shucks."
Yeah, you
Let's
gotta say
see.
shucks.
You know what? If you're at a alcohol establishment and you're bringing your kid, I don't think you can reasonably expect other people to be tame.
Bingo.
Listen,
I don't listen
Can I
first.
bring
of all.
my
we
kid?
all know that drinking and driving is forbidden. Don't do it. I'm not advocating it. You should not do it. Who's driving these little kids home when their parents are both
Yeah.
drinking at the brewery and they bring the kids with them?
My
The
wife
dog.
doesn't drink, so I'm lucky.
Yeah, you're the best. So
I am.
I guess it's something that I'm just so not used to. I mean, Dan, you're a young buck. What do you think about it? You got no kids. You got a new dog.
I mean, I
Did you ever
can't.
bring him to a brewery?
Not yet,
How
but
come?
because he's not old enough to drink yet. Also, it's a girl, so I just keep calling it he. I mean, it doesn't bother me, and I think now I'm just so desensitized to it. But I think it's a kind of a genius model for them because back then it used to be come in, your kids at soccer practice, come in, grab a couple beers, and get the hell out. Now, like, you're spending a couple hours in. Obviously, it's a little irresponsible, but now the breweries are making a lot more money having people on site because they don't have to rush home because the babysitter's leaving at
Who would have thought
2
that
hours.
drinking would be a family affair?
Yeah. Booze brings people together, Karl.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But, I mean, one of the best things I've ever seen is this apple orchard out in Natick. And it's always huge, always crowded, but now they make their own cider, and they have a brewery on board. And so you go, like, bring your kids, bring the whole family, and now you can go have dinner, and it's cider they make from the apples that probably fall off the grounds. And something like that's great. Like, that's
Pretty
genius.
sweet.
I think it's a great idea. Now I'm not less so hesitant to go apple picking because I know I can go get some booze after.
Right.
Well,
Or
do you
before,
think? Do you
during,
think
I don't-
now? Right now, this seems to be the trend. Is there going to be a point where there's going to be so many small breweries pop up, small neighborhood breweries that they just won't be able to last?
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, there's only so many people to buy so many things. I think especially the downfall with local stuff is they cost a lot more.
I think there's always a line to be drawn in anything, but I think about how many beers across the country were available to us over the last 10 years of this craft beer boom. It's been a little longer, I think, now. But there was never really any implosion. The only implosion you've seen in the craft beer industry is the fact that there are more local breweries. So for every local brewery that sprouts, it's just going to replace a brewery from Oregon, California, Michigan. We're just going to drink local instead. I don't know that it's gonna. I think we keep saying like this industry is eventually just going to collapse, but it hasn't. It's
See,
just,
I don't know. People are
adapting.
always going to want to go buy $20 4-packs or something like that. That's what I think is going to be the biggest thing is like the money aspect. Like,
Right. But they don't always have to be $20. Like
They don't always have to, but
Right.
a lot of these big ones that people are kind of gravitating towards now, that's like, you're lucky if you're getting out of there with more than 4 beers for under $30.
Right. And they might make cheaper beer, but I guess maybe it's not as cheap to make for smaller breweries.
And that's it. That's
the
big thing. So that's
a good point.
Can that trend keep going that way, where people are going to be willing to spend that, or eventually one of these big guys that cost less come out with good beer that costs half the money,
right?
And you're like, well, I could go spend that on 4 beers, or I could spend the same amount of money on 12. So
maybe local farmers, start growing barley and hops. And
they've started, man.
Beer gets cheaper. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
unfortunately, New England's not the best climate. Yeah.
You know, if you were a big craft beer nerd, 7 or 8 years ago, right before the session beer kind of trend happened, they were predicting that it was going to go back to local. There were over, I think, 2,000 breweries in the country before Prohibition. That number might be inflated, but there were a lot. There were a lot of breweries before Prohibition, and granted, that was because there was no refrigeration.
Right, everybody had to have a local.
They had to have a local brewery, but that being said, now there's refrigeration. There's not a necessity for a local brewery. It's just kind of a cool, nice thing to have, and here we are post-Prohibition, where I think after Prohibition there were like 8. And we're back to we're almost at like 4,000 breweries, and that's last time I looked. Low
number for it too.
Yeah, and last time I looked was like a year ago. It's got to be way more than that by now. The way these things are popping up, Yep. So I don't know. I don't think it's a trend that's dying. I think it's still on a steady incline, and I think the rest of everything around it, because it's bringing in food trucks, so then it's employing people then, and it's sparking that economy. So I think people around it are going to kind of adapt. You know what I mean? Like the farmers going to start growing shit that breweries need, and food trucks, they're going to be popping up more often, because why have a restaurant when you can just open up a brewery and make an 80% margin of profit on a beer that you're brewing in-house, and just have someone else come sell food
on up
and make a 20% profit.
Yep.
Instead of opening up a restaurant, have to worry about staffing and this and that. Yep. You just hire whatever food truck you want. Come sell the food for me.
Let them get the bad Yelp reviews.
Well, how about this for how about this for trends? Not local trends, I shouldn't say, but trends. What we've seen, and everybody's seen it over the last 5 years, people coming up to the bar or sitting at a restaurant and they're on their phone. Doesn't matter how many people they're with. Doesn't mean if they're with a date or their wife or a table of 15. Everybody's on their phone all the time. Nobody talks to each other. Do you think that you could survive if you owned a bar or restaurant and didn't allow cell phones?
No.
No.
Not now.
And I don't want to say, I'm not saying not, drop them at the door, but let's say you have some kind of device that says you can't use your
Well, it depends what kind of restaurant. If it was the Speedwell Tavern, which is, for those who listen, haven't been, laid back, craft beer bar, burgers, wings, stuff like that, no. If it was a fine dining restaurant where there's like reservations booked out 6 months, yeah, you can make whatever fucking rules you want. I wouldn't open up a restaurant and say you can't have a phone in it. I mean, people going out to relax. If that's how they want to relax, who am I to judge? You know what I mean? But, it's up to I guess what kind of restaurant you want to open. But it is a pretty crazy thing. I see people more in the opposite direction. Instead of rebelling against it, they're opening up restaurants to accommodate it. They're putting in better Wi-Fi. They're putting in
phone chargers.
Every
seat,
right? You're even seeing like mounts now. Like, come here and snap your phone here so you can, it's crazy. But I think about it. I mean, I'm thinking more coffee shop wise. But if I'm going to a coffee shop, I'm a kid. I got a dorm room, or I'm living in a flat, and I don't have I can't afford Wi-Fi.
Flat? What are you, from England?
Whatever, dude. And you go to the local coffee shop and you mac off their Wi-Fi and you do homework there. Like, yeah, of course you're gonna gear towards that. Why can't a bar do the same thing? Coffee is freaking more expensive than beer these days. Jesus Christ.
That is true.
Trend.
But I mean, I definitely play into that role because I have an internet TV device at our bar that just plays funny videos, and I've had a bar full of people just staring at that, not talking to each other. So,
but I'll be in the middle of a conversation, and I can't freaking focus because as soon as I take my eye off the ball, and I'm watching the Red Sox game in the background right now while we're doing this, as soon as I'm in the middle of a conversation, and I look up and I see the TV, and there's some dude doing a backflip on his own face, I'm like, what was I talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a great thing if there's dead air, but if you're trying to have a conversation, it's like...
But if you're in a bar,
I mean,
and you're with
I guess, but...
a date, a wife, whoever it may be, a friend,
Right.
and you're watching that, you can say, slap on the shoulder and say, "Oh, did you see this guy just do that?"
Right.
So at least you're doing it together.
Yep.
Right.
If
Good
you're
point.
at a bar and you're having a drink and your buddy's in the middle of a conversation, and all of a sudden he starts texting, you're like, "Oh, what the fuck? I came out here, I have a drink with you, and now your attention is not here. Well, you could have stayed home."
Especially when you're with you, because it's only okay when you do it. When it's you and I go
How
out,
many
babe.
texts do I get a day? 4?
Well, we don't
It
know.
always
Three of
seems
them
to
are
be
you
while we're at
saying,
the
"Are
bar."
we going for a drink? Are we going for a drink?
And
Are we
it's
going
your
for a
staff
drink?
like, where the hell are you? We need ice. We need this. We
And
need
the
that.
other one's my wife saying, "Are you going to go drink with Jordan?" So, yeah, I might get 10 texts a day. How many do you get?
I don't want to sound like I'm trying to sound cool. Too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, too many. It's how I
why?
communicate. Because I don't answer the phone. I don't like have phone calls. I
I'm
think
more
it's a waste of
shocked when
time.
people call me. I'm like,
I want the bullet points.
it's gonna be
I
an
want
emergency.
If it's a phone call, then it's like shit, something's wrong. Like whenever my wife calls me and she's like, "What do you want to do for dinner?" I'm like, which is very rare because we've trained each other. But I'm like, what's wrong? You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a culture thing. I want the bullet points. Send me a text message. I'll get you your answer as soon as I can and send it right back to you. And that's all I want. Sales reps.
Although I do think the worst things on text is when somebody puts you on a group message.
Oh, it's the worst.
And everybody has to chime in, and all my phone's going ding, ding, ding.
And then there's memes. Oh, I love the memes.
I don't know what that
I'm
means,
one of
but-
the memers.
Yeah,
Let's
so
go, let's go.
Trends, memes.
Yeah, everybody's going to respond. Okay, yep, good, yep, okay. I don't give a shit. If you want to talk to me, just either text me or call me. Don't
Yeah.
text 14
I've
other
left work
people.
with like 50 unread text messages from a group chat. I'm like, I'm not reading these.
You can leave the group now, which is nice.
In iPhone messages?
Yeah, you
Ah.
can go to info.
Oh, you can. You're right.
And then
Yep.
you scroll down and you leave this conversation. And I do that as soon as the first person messages, like basically a big middle finger. I told you guys I don't want to fucking do this.
Yep.
What I do is I send out a group email to all my staff, and then I'll message them in a group message and say, read your email, do not answer this, or I'll kill you. And
Then you leave.
If they want to answer the email, I'll get to it when I get to it. At least my phone's not going nuts the entire time.
Yeah, I include you in every group text message I have now.
I will unfriend you.
So what is the next trend in the bar business?
The next trend
The
is
next trend.
these
Let's predict
canned cocktails. And I'm telling you, the days,
In a bar, though, I can see, like, in a liquor store, if
Hear
you can
me
go
out.
out and get it in the beach,
No.
but...
hear me out, it's, there's two sides. So a lot of people want to go to like a craft cocktail bar, and we have a couple really good ones in Plymouth. We've had Chris Almeida on from the Tasty. Perfect example. We've had the Dillon's guys on, I believe, too. We've had Pete Burgess on. Craft cocktail bars, I would consider those guys like they're infusing ingredients and doing shit from scratch. You get the whole performance. You have that side. Then you have people that want like a good cocktail, but like they don't mind just drinking from like a vessel. So you're seeing it with the spiked seltzers, which you touched on earlier, Carl. But you're also seeing like canned gin and tonic, canned wine. I guess can would be the kind of thing.
Yep.
It's like this. It's almost like they came out with it like, oh, you can take this to the beach and not worry about breaking glass. But now people at the bar want them. Like they don't. It's mainly industry people. It might be what it is. They don't want to force their bartender to make them something from scratch. So they're just like, no, let me get that Ballast Point Bloody Mary, or let me get that, Fisher's Island Lemonade that's 11%, and it comes in a can and it's pre-made, and it's just like whatever. You know what I mean?
I don't know if everyone's going to jump to the cocktail thing. I think like there's like the spiked seltzers. I wouldn't consider like a cocktail because it's a malt beverage. But like I think if I'm like, hey, do you want a vodka soda? And I open a can and give you a vodka soda, you probably aren't coming back, because I think there's the whole point of even just looking at them like, that guy didn't give me enough vodka in my drink. You don't know what's in it. I think a lot of people kind of look at it that way.
Right.
So I don't know if that is going to fully jump into the train. I mean, I think there's going to be some weird stuff, but I also have canned wine in my bar, and I think it's awesome.
Well, if
because-
someone comes in for a vodka soda, they're going to get a poured vodka soda. But I think it's a trend because they're doing a really good job of advertising it, and people know they want it before they even get to the bar. They ask you if you have it.
Yep.
Do you have spiked seltzer? Do you have spiked seltzer, which is basically it is a malt beverage, but it's basically a vodka soda. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a Zima.
right, it's a Zima. For those of you not listening, back during the Civil War, what they used to drink. Those of you who were not alive, sorry. Anyway, so I'm thinking, I'm saying it's going to be like a call thing. You know what I mean? Like where people are coming in and asking for it, and if you don't have it, then it's like shit. I bet. Like Dan, for example, him and I just both brought in a brand of spiked seltzer, and we'll tell you that brand if they have a sponsor this podcast. But
no free ads.
We both brought it in because people were coming in asking for it, and we didn't originally have it. It wasn't something we felt like we needed to have. It was something we felt like we could just make. You know, there's plenty of mango flavored
that. So
vodkas.
I'm like, no, we don't need that.
Yeah, right. And then it was like, shit, man. You know, I'm so tired of people asking for this. I can't believe they're asking for it. And all of a sudden, I'm one of the people sitting at your bar drinking them.
Same. I had like 4 of them yesterday.
They're great. They're simple. They're cold. They're easy. You know, and it's just kind of thoughtless. And I don't know. I see it as a trend. It's definitely grown over the last 2 years.
And now it's all flavored this, flavored that.
Right.
You get 100 different flavors depending on what
What's
brand
in
you bring
stock.
in.
Right.
But let's talk about we try to predict the future. Let's talk about trends that we think are maybe on the way out.
On the way out. That's a good one.
Super high ABV beers.
Yes.
I used to see someone would come to me like, hey, do you want this 15% stout? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And people flip. Now, like I don't know, do I want an 8% beer? Like, I think you can do it every now and then, but it's not like it used to be.
Not as big as all the barrel aged stuff is very good, but
now you get a month you can sell it.
Seeking them out as much as they used to.
I don't think it's like a designated driver thing where people are trying to police themselves either, because getting a ride home has never been easier with like Uber, Lyft, taxis. Like it's not that. They just want to be able to spend a little bit more time, maybe a little less money, and not get messed up so fast. Right. You know, like I don't want a 15% barrel aged beer. I'll sip on that at home when there's a snowstorm outside. I don't want to go out to a bar and have that and make an ass of myself. You know, that's definitely
we talked about the more hops the better. That's kind of on the way out now.
Yeah.
And what about energy drinks?
Definitely on its way out. Definitely on its way out. It was. I think it peaked with the Four Loko thing. Four Loko. If anyone listening doesn't know what it is, when it originally came out, it was
You're
a
lucky
pre-mix.
if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I do. I know Dan does.
Unfortunately.
But it was a pre-mixed energy drink that came in like a 24-ounce can. It was 8% alcohol by volume, and basically a giant Red Bull with
has as much
alcohol
caffeine as 3 cups of coffee, I think, too.
Right, in one can, and people were just like drinking 4 or 5 at a time. You know, college kids, you know, they're up all day, they want to stay up all night, and they made them illegal.
We have people kept dying from them. Like that's how.
Yeah.
Well, because they were mixing it with booze.
It is
already.
Booze. Well,
they were
like
mixing it with vodka.
Yeah, and LSD, and they were drinking it in holes you're not supposed to. But you can't stop them, man. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Yep.
But
Tide Pods, right?
Definitely less of a trend. Like, I recently just made the switch from doing the Red Bull in a can to Red Bull on the gun. The soda gun, so it's pre-mixed. Because I was just already seeing it kind of go in that direction. I'm like, why am I wasting... You're basically spending the same amount of money you would spend on a domestic beer cost for a bar as you are on Red Bull or any other energy drink that comes pre-canned, pre-packaged. And then I'm mixing that already with, like, people want, like, Tito's or Grey Goose and Red Bull. I'm like, yo, I should be charging, like, $16 for that drink.
There are places that do.
And if I don't... If I do, I get called out because I'm the only one in town doing it. And if I don't, then I'm wasting money on someone that's going to become an asshole in my bar because they're drinking Red Bull and Tito's. I get once in a while, man, you're having a tough day, you're out when you don't want to be, and you feel like that's going to get you over the hump. We offer it. That's cool. It's on the gun now. Sorry, it's not your favorite energy drink in the world, but whatever. But it's definitely declined. I think people are a little bit more conscious of that.
I think it's an age group thing, though. I think it's still big in like the early 21 to 24 crowd.
You
like,
see
I think like we probably don't have the younger, but I still sell enough of it. Like, so I think it's probably more of a city thing too.
Right.
Like you see it a lot more if you go out into like a bar out in Boston or another big city place. I think that's more like college style stuff.
Right.
So I think that is more, it's trended back towards that, but it is less. Like I could go a month without making Red Bull vodka.
We do also have an early last call compared, and you said that like big city thing. Like if you go to Boston, last call is 2. is it?
2, yep.
You go to New York, it's 4. Yeah, so I guess that sort of thing too. The late night, and I'm not really there late anymore, so it's a little out of school for me. But energy drink thing is definitely going down.
Well, how about this? There's been a trend out there for 100 years, is having music at your restaurant or bar.
Yeah.
And call it, let's just, if you're a concert venue and you have big bands, that'll never change. But let's say you got a single or a duo in the corner playing for the customers.
Right.
Is it worth it as a bar owner to have those people playing? Are they just playing to the people that are there? Or are people coming in to see them? Is it something that is going to continue? What do you think?
I think it's venue-wise. So you look at it that way, like, redo all our music during the week. So originally we were the only ones really doing that all early weeks, and now a lot of people have jumped that way. But at the same time, like, I don't think a lot of people are doing it dinner-wise anymore. So you go out to dinner, like, do you really want to have, even if it's just a solo guy doing it, like, you might not want to sit there and eat your dinner with, like, your family while some guy's singing Rage Against the Machine or something like that.
Right.
It might be a bad example, but I think it's still there, but I think it's less everywhere. Like, it's not just in your face. Everywhere you go doesn't have music. But it's also, again, this area, like,
I guess it's sort of a new pecking order now, too. There's something in between the person you're with and the band. Now it's your phone. So
yep.
You go out to a restaurant expecting, and you don't expect to see live music. If before we had these phones, we could just pick up and stare at and look at whatever we felt like. You went to a restaurant, there was a dead conversation. You could just be like, oh, let's listen to the band for a little bit. You know what I mean? And now it's like, you've heard the song the band's playing. Most of the time it's a cover band 1,000 times. You could get it on your phone anytime you want. Why the hell do you want to hear somebody you don't know playing it? You have a dead conversation, just go down, look at your phone.
Well, look at it this way. I think my musician friends will hate me for saying this, but could you make or have the same amount of people and make more money if you just had a jukebox that people can say? I mean, we have both. And
Put
I know
on Pandora.
And not just that.
But I think even jukebox, you can pick what song you want to hear. So
Jukebox takes requests.
Yeah.
And they can play whatever song
you
you
want
want
to hear. If you want to listen to Freebird, you can hear it without someone yelling at you. But
there's something to say about live music, too.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's different. Like, it is cool to go see a live band, especially if somebody you like. But I don't know. It's definitely different.
I hire local musicians at Speedwell, and it's not the best room.
Just local musicians? You don't hire the ones from California or
Nope.
New Mexico? Or anything?
Just local musicians. And when I say local, I mean super local. Super local. Because I like to think that not only, they're providing a service and stuff, but I'm also employing them, and, like, they're going to speak highly of my restaurant, sort of like hiring an ambassador, too.
Yep.
They're going to come in, they're going to play for their 3 hours, and that's cool. But they're also at other bars. They're near and around other people that go to bars. So they're going to spread the goodwill of Speedwell Tavern and keep that, like, I don't know, sounds crazy, but keep that morale, keep that foo-foo, good-feeling stuff up. Like, Speedwell employs local musicians, it's rah-rah-rah. That being said, there's been a lot of times where I put full bands in that terrible space for music, and, it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm about to fill up, and they come in, and there's a band, and they can't have a conversation, and half the people that were there leave, and then no new people are coming in because it's just too damn loud. That's not what they were going out for. They went out to have a drink with a friend and have a conversation. Dan, you touched on it earlier. Like, we have the kind of places where we get a little bit of an older crowd. They're not going in there to crush energy drinks and vodka. They're going in there to have a conversation, have a couple drinks, spend some time with people who they've worked all week. They got jobs. It's not like the 21-year-old college kid that's going out to grind up on some girl. You know what I mean?
Karl.
To somebody playing
Can't do that anymore.
Puddle of Mud or whatever, a Buck Cherry or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not the crowd I'm getting. So why am I having live music bands playing that when for a crowd that's not going out expecting that? Like, so that's something, again, it's a trend that I definitely am seeing.
Well, Carl's
declining.
a good person to ask because you have a great venue that has a great stage area and stuff
We've got
like
that
that.
back room that we have the bigger bands, and those bigger bands bring in a lot of people later at night. But it's set apart where the people in the dining room can hear the music, but it's not overwhelming.
It's not forced down
so
that
it's
throat.
not just one big room where you can't get away from it.
Right.
What I was speaking was, is the guy in the corner singing really adding value to your bottom dollar as a bar owner?
I think it depends on the guy. That's it. Like, I've had good ones, I've had bad ones, and I think you could probably say the same. Cause I know.
And you don't know until you have them.
Yep.
I like to measure it, again, outside of just the day and the time that they're there. If they're local, they're well-known, they go to your place when they're not playing, they bring people in when they do play, even if it's just close family and it's 8 to 12 of them, they are still bringing people in. Those people are spreading it, and they all feel really good about your place. I'm like, they are still providing a service, so I'm paying for that, but there's also those other intangibles involved, too.
Yep.
That's the whole going back to the local, drinking local beer, buying local beer, serving local beer. That goes into that whole vibe. That's the way I kind of look at it. Does that apply across the board? Absolutely not.
Nope.
When we look at it. I mean,
we keep on the local thing. You just talk about all these crazy local Facebook pages that can be your best friends or your worst enemy.
yes.
I mean, we watched a couple probably over the summer where there was a couple restaurants that probably got taken down a couple pegs, if not a lot, by
A complete peg.
an angry, almost mob mentality, where it's you read one thing and they don't know what the details are. It's just let's get our pitchforks and torches and go.
Right.
So
that is a trend. It's let's be outraged about something.
Yep.
And the restaurant is the easiest thing because we all eat and we all drink and, we've all been to one. So that's the easiest one. Where there's something on one of these social media pages, it's like, shit, I know what they should have did, or I know what they could have did, or I know what they should do.
But, I mean, you could also say that if you get a lot of good reviews, it really does well for your restaurant. So it's catch-22. You get one guy in there who's the biggest pain in the butt, and that no matter what you do, you're not going to make that customer happy.
Right.
And they're going to write you a bad review. And they write you a bad review, and they don't say anything to you. So it's I guess it's tough to have somebody write a bad review. Nobody wants to ever see that.
No.
But there are people out there that's all they do. They don't write good reviews. They go to each place and they try to find out what's wrong with it, and then they harp on it and to say, I'm the doom and gloom restaurant reviewer.
Because negativity gets clips, man, and that's
right.
what it is. Because
That's
they're going
right.
to throw it out there and it's like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And we've done the social media thing 100 times before, but I think the trend part of it is the mob mentality now. Because it's going on. It's not a solo review where someone's just reading it and deciding not to go to a restaurant because they read something
It's
bad.
not Yelp anymore.
No.
Maybe not even TripAdvisor. It's the Google reviews.
It's
and
Facebook.
And it's your hometown Facebook or postings
Community
on
page and all that, yeah.
communication page.
People you're standing in line with at the registry
and they love it.
and at the
And they love it.
supermarket.
And everybody's brave on the interweb.
Well, it's not that I think we all kind of agree we don't really go back to those. You don't try to get involved in your Facebook page, or in one of those things. But even if you wanted to, by the time you see it, you could go to bed and someone put it out there, and there's 500 comments.
500. That was the number I was going to go with.
Destroying you.
That. Yes.
And it's tough, man. Like if you're one of those places that gets that, like, what do you do?
I honestly think, and I was always one of those people that was like, don't respond. But it's got to the point now where 500 comments, well, at least 5,000 people saw that.
Yeah.
So the numbers don't lie. Those are 5,000 people, whether, let's say 10% of them defended you, because that's probably a pretty reasonable number. We don't know what the situation is. We don't know what the negative review was. Some kid got a grilled cheese with too much butter on it or something. Who cares?
Yep.
But you got to kind of defend yourself now. And you got to do it like you got to walk in with your tail between your legs and say, you're all right, I'll be better, over a grilled cheese. Now, one of the situations, that happened recently, which I think is a prime example of this, and I don't want to get super specific because there's so many different ways you can go at it, but basically a local restaurant owner was arguing with one of his younger employees. We don't know anything about either of them. And, screenshots of the kid getting fired went up on a local thing, and it went nuts. It went viral. And everybody was all over the business owner because, this is an innocent 17-year-old kid and da-da-da. Again, I don't know the backstory. All I know is social media got a hold of it and practically put this dude out of business in, the prime of his busy season. And, he had a weak moment. Maybe the kid had a history of being a dickhead. I don't know. But
maybe he was on drugs.
Who knows? Right. half the people commenting on it sure as hell were.
Yeah,
Well,
They wanted the dude dead.
it's so easy to cherry pick a conversation like that to make it seem one side or the other. Like it's
Of course.
in what you said, it's tough to do. Like people already decided, they already made up their mind. Even if you go back with it, like, what do you post your whole conversation? Like, do you do that? Like,
And that's the hardest thing these
Yeah.
days. That's the least strenuous thing is people changing their mind.
Yep.
Once people form their opinion, that's it. No one changes their mind anymore. God forbid someone admits they're wrong and is like, oh, you know what? I never thought about it that way.
God forbid you're not perfect.
Yeah, no shit, man. And that's the culture this social media group stuff is doing is there's power in numbers because the person or the business is the one focal point, and then you got 50,000 people member of this group, and they're all going to jump on it. So half of it's bullshit, and then there's some hateful stuff on there, and like
Yeah.
then all of a sudden people start digging. They want to be like the person that have the scoop on you, and it's just this like, all right, who else is doing great? All right, cool, let's take them down. All right, cool, good job, everybody, high five.
Well,
all right, who's next?
I think if you get that, and I'm not talking about the reviews. I'm talking about the people that go on the local web page or whatever you want to call
Right.
it, Facebook or whatever it may be. And if somebody says, "Hey, I really had a good experience. It was great," everybody jumps on and says, "Yeah, me too. I've been there. It's great. Oh, it's the best place."
That
to
is
live.
nice.
This
Yep.
is great. This is great. This is great. And if somebody starts by saying, "This place sucks because I had this and this and this and this," everybody, you're like, there's nobody else that says, "Oh, well, geez, I went there a couple of weeks ago and it was really good."
Right.
Nobody says that.
Unless they work for you
It's
and they're
me
trying-
too,
yeah.
me too, me too.
Yep.
It's
Right.
the Me Too movement, I think.
Easy. No, the social media thing, man, and that's the thing. We've touched on it a couple times. There's so many trend wise, yeah, like that's the latest one with the social media is the group mentality. This us against that one person, and then all right, cool. Well, now they're on the street, and you know everything they worked really hard for, invested all their money in is over. Who else can we destroy?
We need to bring back Friendster because at least everyone was friends.
Were they? I don't know what
I
Friendster
don't either.
is.
I only just heard of it. I read about it. I read about it in my history book.
Was that Napster?
That was different. That was when everyone took naps.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
It was like MySpace or Space.
So what do you think's the next trend? So we were talking about people staring at their phones, and something Dan, you and I have definitely dabbled in is this like we're doing like video game nights.
Oh hell yeah!
So you know people aren't going to talk to each other anyway. Why don't we provide them with something a little different than their
Well,
own
look at
phones
this.
to get them to go to our bars?
They talk to each other because
stare
they
at a
talk
screen.
shit to each other.
Yeah, but
like,
instead of staring at a screen, just buy some video games and call it Barcade.
that's it. Well, that's
kinda what we're doing.
I wish we had a barcade in town. I would go. Like, not like this one that has all the old school games. I want big, like flashy strobe light ones and stuff like that.
It's
Like,
called pins.
no, that's. I mean, I like pins.
You kind of got a
But-
inside scoop over there.
I do, yeah. I just go in there. I'm like, don't you know who I am? My name's Karl Heine.
Your puppy mama.
yeah, we told you.
yeah,
not
my
allowed
puppy
here.
mama lives there. But there's something like one of the coolest bars I went to was like an old vintage video game one in Portland, Maine. Like they had
Yeah.
old school pinball. They
Barcadia.
Yeah, Barcadia.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's badass.
They have like Nintendo 64 hooked up in the bar and stuff. I'm like, we said we had Nintendo hooked up at my bar the other day. You two sat there for what, a good hour? and
No, we
played?
didn't.
Well, we were talking.
Killing me.
We were
You
playing.
are killing me.
It's this is like 6 months ago.
It was like a half hour.
But even I had it hooked up the other night, and people sat there for 3 hours playing Super Mario Brothers, and they might have left after 45 minutes, or maybe even less than that. But they stayed till the whole night, and like, crap, it's already 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, get out, give me all your money, and let's go.
Do you think that's like an evolution of the whole stare at your phone screen thing? Because I think you walk into a bar and you sit there and you stare at your phone with someone else at a table, there is that sort of group of people that are going to be like, oh, look at those people. They just come out and they're just on their phones. They don't even talk to each other. But if you set up video games, they're like, yo, they're just
Can I
playing
get-
video games. They're there.
Yeah.
I would do the same thing. You
Can
know
I
what
get
mean? It's
next?
a-
Like that's
and it's still kind of social because you could talk shit while playing video games. You're both looking at the same screen, two player. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the evolution of the pool hall.
yeah,
Like that's it's like drinking and doing stuff.
drinking and doing stuff. So you're not just drinking.
Yeah, I mean, you get tired,
Yeah.
you get sleepy, you might take a nap on your bar stool, on one of Carl's couches. But like, I think to be able to do stuff, if I'm entertained, and that's ultimately all I want in life is just be entertained.
Right.
That's a great way to do it because Again,
Oh, I absolutely
do
agree.
stuff I like. So
What about bars like when you had people take their clothes off, like a strip joint or something?
those can be entertaining too. Here's some crazy ones out there. I read about those in history books too.
Do you think strip clubs are coming back, Carl?
No.
No, I don't think so either. I think.
Wait, they went away?
Well, no, they're there, but man, they're not like they used to be. There used to be strip clubs like every town. Now they're closing down like crazy. There's one in New Bedford that closed.
Oh, see, I mustn't have read about those ones in the history books.
Don't be one of those guys that acts like they don't know.
No,
they
I mean,
exist.
honestly, I didn't.
I don't even go to them. I know they exist.
I know this. Like, you go to Providence and you can see 6 of them off the first highway, the exit.
yeah,
Like,
right near like the power plant.
I was going to assume, like, around here, there's never really been a big thing. At least not where, like. Well, no, that's not true because on Route 1 there's a million of them. So,
Yeah.
but those are still open. So, I don't know.
Maybe it's a thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe pretty soon it's going to be.
Strip club breweries.
Strip club breweries, yeah, but they're going to be robots,
Bring your
kids I'm in.
I heard about that.
sex
Yep.
robots.
Yep. Well, they already have those over in
know what that
Tokyo
is,
and
but I saw it
Japan.
on the
Wait,
news.
BBC's doing a sex club robot night?
Yeah. We finally dug our tunnel from Speedwell, so we stole all your dolls. And, sharing's caring, Jordan.
Use the upstairs one at a time, please.
Yep. Clean up after yourself.
Yep. Yeah, just like at the gym when you wipe
What
off
if it gets
the
all rusty?
treadmill.
I mean, that's, a little WD-40 fixes all that. That squeaky door, Carl.
Last call.
Thank God.
Last call. That was at perfect timing. All right, that's last call, everybody, which means we'll go traditional this time. This is the wind down of the Bar Talk podcast episode. This is when we all get a chance to voice whatever we want to talk about. Doesn't have to do anything with the episode, anything we talked about today. I'd like to thank you all for listening. I'm Jordan Shabbat from the Speedwell Tavern. I want to let you guys all know that me and Karl have another bet. Last year, if you guys are paying attention and listening, Karl and I made a bet on the Patriots season. It was about wins. We ended up holding a really good event with arm wrestling competition. Devil's Purse Brewery, one of those local trendy breweries from South Dennis, was involved, was a very big help. We raised a bunch of money for the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless. This year, the bet is how many touchdowns will Tom Brady have? And because I'm a gentleman, I took the under.
No, not because you're a gentleman, because you lost the bet to talk about the bet that we were going to make.
No, that's not how it went.
Yes, it was.
I was like,
Well,
you know what,
that's
dude?
You were
involved there.
drinking.
You had to bet against Tom Brady last year, so I guess I'll bet against him this year.
So it's a pity bet?
Yeah. I still win. So 29 and over, Karl wins. 28 or less, I win. Touchdown passes or rushing touchdowns by Tom Brady. I'm really hoping he gets another ACL, MCL, so I can win
Nice.
this bet.
That's nice.
I don't care about. I'm watching the Red Sox play right now, but that is my last call. Please pay attention. We'll be posting some stuff on Facebook, and we'll be doing an event very similar to last year's where we raised a bunch of money for a pretty awesome local charity. Karl, you're up next.
Thank you, everybody.
No one.
Karl Heine from the New World Tavern. I just want to say, why don't you come on down to Plymouth? You got the BBC, you got Speedwell, you got New World Tavern. You have a plethora
Tavern on the Wharf.
of bars. Tavern on the Wharf,
An uber
not in
amounts.
Plymouth Center, but it's only down the street. But come on in. There's a lot of things to do in Plymouth. There's a lot of restaurants, a lot of bars. I think you'll have a great time. Some with music, some without. Some with Red Bull drinks, some without. Some with
Some with
local
sauerkraut.
breweries, some without.
Yeah.
So
trying to rhyme.
come on down, Dan.
God, thank you guys as always for listening, and thank you to Tavern on the Wharf for hosting us. They were very great hosts. For me, and I just want to encourage everyone to come check out our live music. We do it Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday,
Yes, no
Monday, Sunday. We do it all the time. But we have some
Come check out
incredible
live.
acts. So yeah, just come. I'll sing you a song maybe if you're nice. I got a ukulele on the wall you can play.
Tisa unplugs the jukebox.
Tiso, come see Matt Tiso, Plymouth's greatest bartender. He's got a trophy to prove it. Thanks.
Hell yeah. Yeah, little aside. Matt Tiso, America's home down, throwdown, first ever bartending champion.
We saw him smile, everyone.
Yeah.
And if you don't know him, you should come meet him and understand how great that is.
That dude keeps his beard long just in case he smiles, so you can hide it. It's an angry Tiso. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I want to thank Andy and Fish from Inebriart. Please check out their podcast, the Inebriart Podcast. They got episodes coming out routinely every Monday. Artists, musicians in town, writers, actors, actresses. Dee Snider was on as well. And you can find us on social media, especially those angry group pages, at Bar Talkcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Or you can go old school and shoot us a good old-fashioned email at bartalkcast@gmail.com. Forget the first at there. I want to thank everybody for listening. I'm going to jumble that up every time. We'll see you next time. 5 minutes, everybody out!
Later.